I wanted to talk with you about the new Southeast Asia, the changes governments applied during the pandemic, and how they affect foreigners that have been or are living in the region. We're going to talk about Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, and the Philippines. Vietnam is probably the country that witnessed the most changes out of all Southeast Asian countries. Vietnam had a change in government, and that was what I believe the main reason why the Vietnamese decided to abandon their liberal visa policy. And a lot of people aren't aware of that, but it actually happened in early 2021, which pretty much was the time when the Vietnamese government, should I say the new Vietnamese government, said, you know what, enough is enough. We don't want to have any more foreigners living in our country on a tourist visa. We are going to put an end to this. That's exactly what they did, leaving a lot of foreigners stranded and frustrated because they had to leave the country and give up their life, which they built over the years in Vietnam. And I remember the time when I arrived in Vietnam in 2013. It was a very open time back then. You know, you walked into HSBC and you had a bank account, open a personal bank account in literally minutes. You know, you sat down, they ask you, where are you from, sir? You know, and you just deposited the money. And I remember it was pretty big deposit that was required back then, 50,000 Vietnam dong. I'm kidding, it was a pretty small deposit. It was only about $2, $2.50. And it was so simple to open up the account and no questions asked in terms of where do you work, what do you do for a living, nothing like that. They just ask you what account do you want to open up and how much do you want to deposit. And it was done in less than 15 to 20 minutes. Obviously things changed since then, and you know, if you wanted to open up an account right now, surely, you know, you being on a tourist visa is not good enough. In fact, you need a work permit, residence permit, you need to be married to a Vietnamese, then you can get a bank account. I noticed a change in strictness because I moved from HSBC to ANZ, which is an Australian bank. It's Australian New Zealand Banking Corporation. So I decided to get rid of the HSBC account. I think that was in like 2015, 2016. Why? Because HSBC started asking a lot more questions in terms of what I'm doing for a living. So then I decided, you know what, it's time to close it. It's getting tighter. They're becoming stricter and it's gotten pretty uncomfortable. And then I went to ANZ, and they were also about to stop accepting foreigners that just were there on a tourist visa. But they still opened up the account, also opened up the account for a friend of mine who made a pretty sizable deposit to purchase property in Vietnam. And they didn't want to let him, you know, open up that account either. And he was very lucky to have gotten in because HSBC had closed the doors and the local banks, they weren't going to work with him. So he was lucky because ANZ was probably the only option he had left. So he went with the Premier account, which worked out pretty fine for him. And that was it, you know. But right now, in terms of banking, it's going to be pretty difficult. If we take a look at the visa situation that we had in place pre-pandemic, it was an ideal scenario. A digital nomad could just apply for a single multi-entry 1 month, 3 month visa, come to Vietnam, you know, come to the airport, land there, you know, pay the stamping fee, which I believe was like $50 for a 3 month multi-entry visa. So they got the approval letter prior to departure, paid another fee upon departure, and boom, they got 3 months. And it was very easy to extend the visa while in Vietnam. You didn't need to leave. You had a fixer in place, which is a visa agent. You know, they would do an extension for you. You pay them, I think, like $100, $150. You get another 3 month extension, and you could do that several times without having to leave the country. That all has changed. In fact, you know, for Americans, they had a 12-month visa, business visa in place, which was very convenient, but that's also gone right now. So all that's left is the 30-day visa, no extension possible. And that really changed because of the new government. How about Thailand? Well, the visa situation in Thailand hasn't really changed. If you apply at the embassy in your country, you're going to be able to get like a 6-month tourist visa, and that'd be good enough for a digital nomad expat who wants to spend more time in the tropics. You know, they want to get out of the bad weather, the cold weather, spend a couple months in Asia. So that's definitely ideal for them. And in terms of other visa programs, I mean, if you want to be there long term, you can get a Thai elite visa. You know, it's going to be 600,000 Thai baht, which comes down to, I believe, $17,000 right now. Not the cheapest option you would think. It really isn't. For the 20-year visa, it's gonna be like, I believe, 30,000 right now, which, you know, is not that bad actually. It's gonna come down to like $1,500 a year that you pay in government fees, because that money can't be recouped. You don't get any other perks, you know, just the limousine pickup from the airport, you know, some massages or discounts for massages, if you will, and that would be it, you know. Other than that, you can do the EDU visa, which requires you, you know, to sign up at a school and pay the school and then pay, you know, the visa fee and all of that. So again, there are options for Thailand, definitely more options than you see in Vietnam. And in terms of COVID, you can travel to Thailand right now. They removed the test and go program, meaning fully vaccinated travelers can enter. No more tests prior or upon departure needed. You're fully vaccinated, you're a free man. In case you're unvaccinated, you can just do the PCR test, the antigen test prior to departure, bring that with you, and that would get you into the country as well. Malaysia is a country that also had a very shaky period because, you know, they weren't sure about their whole COVID situation, how they would want to reopen. Now they decided to remove the travel bubble, meaning fully vaccinated travelers can enter again. If you're unvaccinated, you can get in as well, but you need to get a test done prior to departure. But there is a procedure in place to enter the country, you know, much more tedious than if you were fully vaccinated, but there's a way for you to get in. What we have seen in Malaysia is kind of similar to what we have seen in Vietnam. We have seen a lot of changes, and the changes that we have seen aren't really for the better in many ways, because the Malaysia My Second Home program used to be much more affordable than it is right now. You need an income of like $10,000 a month. Net worth requirements have gone up to pretty much ridiculous numbers, you know, for a person that wants to live in Southeast Asia at least. And I think very few people are going to be inclined to apply, because Malaysia used to be a value deal. It used to be for, you know, not poor expats, but expats that had a good amount of money, but not rich expats, not millionaires. So I think Malaysia is going to lose a lot of traction. But again, that's what the country probably wants, to reduce migration from countries like China, Hong Kong. You know, Hong Kongese have been leaving their jurisdiction by the tens of thousands because, you know, they don't want to be part of a communist regime. So those people have made their decision to leave. Lots of them left to nearby countries. You know, we're talking Malaysia, the Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, Taiwan. I mean, they've gone to pretty much any country that opened the doors to them, to Hong Kongese citizens. And I think with Malaysia, we're not quite sure what the future holds in terms of, you know, visa policy. We have seen a much tighter approach. Same goes for the Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur Program. It used to be that anyone with a tech business could apply. Now they made it a lot more difficult, restricting a lot of conventional tech businesses from getting the 1-year and 5-year entrepreneur pass. Malaysia now wants very innovative entrepreneurs. You know, to get the 1-year and 5-year entrepreneur visas, you gotta have a very innovative business idea. We're talking about something in the artificial intelligence sector, like instant messenger, bot, any type of automation. You know, just think AI. We're talking about green energy. We're talking about, you know, solar, you know, anything that's like very innovative, they would want to see in an entrepreneur. If it's something very conventional, you're probably not going to get in. So things have changed, things have gotten tighter for many visa programs that the country currently offers. Cambodia is really one of the few countries that retained its visa policy. You know, first they thought, you know what, we're going to resume it. Then they decided to remove the visa upon arrival, you know, kind of like what Vietnam did. And then now they're again at the point, you know, pre-pandemic, same thing. They're issuing these visas again now. Nobody knows for how long. So if you can get a 1-year business visa for Cambodia, you probably want to get it now before the government decides to switch gears and cancel it again. Cambodia is certainly an interesting place for people that want to buy cheap real estate. It's one of the few countries in Asia where a foreigner can actually obtain dual citizenship, which is a definite pro, you know, for somebody who wants to live there long term, you know, potentially start a business, you know, own a property. There is a lot of positive to say about the Philippines, especially the visa situation. There were a lot of rumors circling around, especially in 2021, that the government may not resume its visa policy until the new president takes office, or until it was sure that Duterte's daughter was going to win. That turned out to be an impractical conspiracy theory, because the Philippines reopened to vaccinated travelers well before the election took place. But they reopened it, allowing people to enter again under the same conditions, at least visa-wise. And so it's going to be easy for you to live in a tropical country like the Philippines, on merely a tourist visa. You can stay up for 36 months. So that's very positive. That hasn't really changed. What has changed, or what has stayed intact, is that only fully vaccinated travelers can enter. If you're unvaccinated, you still can't get into the country. Another negative is that if you want to go to like a shopping mall or restaurant, you may need a COVID pass, which is not very convenient. I heard that mask mandates are pretty strict. They're enforcing them. And yeah, if you can't get into like a supermarket or shopping mall because you're not vaccinated, then that's going to be a problem for people who want to live there but who don't want to get the jab. What do you think about the new Southeast Asia? Where are you currently at? Leave a comment below and let us know. Subscribe now and turn on alerts to never miss any of my future nomadism, dating, and business advice videos. I highly recommend that you grab a free copy of my latest ebook, The Nomad Elite Income Booster, your go-to guide for creating passive income streams using the internet. All you need to do is click on the link below the video. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos. Thank you for watching.